my fan memorabilia collection. Hello and welcome to a slightly different kind of video this week. I had an idea a couple of weeks ago about doing a video on the different stuff I own in relation to the different fandoms that I have. And when I started to think about it and actually look around, I realized I have way more stuff than I actually considered to have. I never really thought of myself as being a memorabilia guy, but apparently I am. Yeah, so I've got rather a lot. Now, I considered different ways to do this, like talking about different fandoms and then talking about everything I have within that. But in the end, I thought it made more sense to just split it down into different types of memorabilia and then talk about what I have in there from different fandoms. So I'm going to split it into different categories: books, magazines, posters, and miscellaneous. Now, I may talk about like VHS, DVD, and Blu-ray in a different one, but I don't really count that as memorabilia so much as because that's the actual show or movie or whatever. I'm talking about stuff that you don't necessarily need to enjoy your TV show or movie, but you bought it simply because of how much you like them. Now, I don't know if I'm going to be able to cover everything in the one video. This may end up being a multi-part one, or at least a two-part one. So I'm just going to get straight on with it with books. Now, obviously, the cornerstone of my fandoms, I would say, was Doctor Who. It was certainly the first real fandom that I had. Now, I mean, pre-Doctor Who, I loved some shows like Soap and The Little Vampire, but I wasn't a fan in the sense of it would ever occur to me to try and find other fans or buy things about it or anything like that. Although I did, well, that's true. I did buy the Little Vampire books. Okay. I screwed that up already. Let's talk about Doctor Who. I have a lot of Doctor Who books. I have the Doctor Who Monster book and the 1974 Doctor Who Annual. Neither of those were mine originally, because I wasn't even born then. They were handed down to me from older brothers. Honestly, I don't even know which of my brothers they belonged to originally, but they ended up being mine, I guess, as a kid. And I still have them. The Monster book's pretty terrible condition, though the 1974 Annual is still pretty much perfect. I also have, and this was mine, the 1982 Annual. Now, I find that a bit odd, and I guess it's kind of an indication of just how Doctor Who was always kind of there and how much of a part of like British pop culture it is, because it's not like I was a fan. I mean, 1982 Annual, that would have been like 1981, late 81 that it came out. And I mean, I didn't become a fan of Doctor Who till 1986. I mean, 1981, I was probably too young to even be a fan of anything. I didn't even understand anything that I did see on TV at that age. And yet somehow, for some reason, I've got the 1982 Annual. I think it was for Christmas. So that's kind of odd. And I still have that, and it's still in excellent condition. I have fair whack of the Target novelizations. A couple of those, I think, were hand-downs. Most of them I kind of bought when I became a fan. A hand-down that I have was the original Doctor Who and the Auton Invasion. I've heard that's actually worth quite a bit of money. It's the original one with the brown cover, and it's still in tip-top condition. Maybe I'll sell it one day if I'm in desperate need of cash. I don't know. I also have a lot of non-fiction books that I bought. The first proper like non-fiction book that I bought I didn't buy it, I got it for Christmas, would be the Peter Haining book, 25 Glorious Years. Like I said, I got that as a present. 1988. I'm not sure whether it was a birthday present or Christmas. I'm guessing it was probably a Christmas present. And I still have that. And again, it's still in fine condition. It's a good book. I mean, all the Peter Haining books are pretty much kind of the same as one another, really. But as a version of it, it's fine. I guess I wanted it because A Celebration, which was the first book he did back in 1983 for the 20th anniversary, I used to have that on permanent loan from the library in the mid to late 80s. And I guess I wanted like my own version of that and an updated version of that, I guess. I do actually have A Celebration now, only it's the kind of the blue cover paperback reprint. I kind of wish I could get the original one, the hardback with the more browny yellow cover, because that's so much classier. I might get it one day. I think they're still available on eBay, but they cost a fair whack. It seems a bit much to buy it just for the sake of having the hardback version when I've got the contents. I bought quite a few non-fiction books in the 90s. The handbooks, the David J. Howe, Stephen James Walker one, the 60s, 70s and 80s big hardback books, the Companions book. I also have Sophie Aldridge's Ace book, which is really good. I really like that. It's her memories of her time in the show, along with a lot of rare photographs. I mean, I guess they were probably all over the internet now, but they were rare at the time. I bought that. I'm not sure when it was published, but I bought that, I think, in 1996. I bought that from a comic book store in Adelaide. Again, I still have it. It's still in excellent condition. That's probably one of my favourites, actually. I also have the Universal Data Bank, one of the John Mark Lafissiere books. The only reason I have this, and I guess it's kind of meaningful in a way, is because a friend sent it to me. I think it was for my birthday at some point in the early 90s. I'm thinking probably 1993. From the UK, a friend, I'd moved to Australia by then, a friend from the UK sent it to me. But he actually went to the trouble of taking it with him to like a Doctor Who signing and getting it autographed. So it's got autographs from the likes of Colin Baker and Sophie Aldridge and David Banks, and I think there's a couple of others in there as well. So that's really cool. That was terribly nice of him, not just to send a present, but to go to the trouble of getting it signed as well. That's pretty cool. I have the Hinchcliffe era book by Adrian Ridgelsfeld. It's a good book. It's a bit too kind of, up the backside of that era. I mean, I like that era, but I don't regard it as the be-all and end-all of Doctor Who. It isn't even my favourite era of Doctor Who. And sometimes it's a bit, it's a bit too tonguing for my liking. I mean, if you're one of those fans who regards everything up to the Hinchcliffe era as a prelude and everything after it as a disappointment, I suppose you'll love it more than I do. It's a good book, but like I said, it's a bit too kind of in thrall to that era. I've also got his 30 Years of Time Travel book. I honestly can't remember anything about that. I've got it, but I haven't read it in donkey's years. I get the impression I didn't think it was terribly good. I'm not sure. I've also got David Banks's Cyberman book, which is okay. I think that's about it for like the big books. In terms of the novelizations, I forgot to mention this, I also have like a special sort of box set of novelizations. It's like a hard box set with 4 books in it, 4 of the novelizations in it. It's got Colin Baker on the front. And I got that. I didn't buy it. that was given to me as a kind of going away present by one of my best friends. Pretty much like on the last day I saw him before I emigrated to Australia in 1991, he actually gave it away to me, which was again terribly nice of him. That wasn't the same guy that sent me the Universal Data Bank. That was somebody else, though. Very sweet. I bought the New Adventures books at the time. I still have every single one of them. I liked them at the time, though I do recall going off them steadily as they went on. Certainly like the last quarter or so. Yeah, they were starting to bear very little resemblance to Doctor Who at that point. I haven't the only one I've read of them in like the last 15 years is Nightshade, which I still think is excellent. Actually, I still think it's the best thing that Mark Gatiss has ever written. But that's pretty much the only one that I've actually read in a really, 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 really long time. I have some of the Missing Adventures. I particularly liked Gareth Roberts' ones, especially Romance of Crime and English Way of Death, of course. I think it was around that time that I was kind of just starting to realise just how fond I was of the Williams era and of Tom and Lala and season 17 especially. I think it kind of that was kind of encapsulated in the Romance of Crime, because it really kind of brought those stories back and kind of that style. And I kind of realized how much I loved it at around that time, and of course I'm still a huge fan of that. The BBC books I did not buy as many of. I think partly because I've been going off the New Adventures somewhat anyway, but I think the fact that I was not a big fan of the TV movie, and I didn't have the same affinity with the 8th Doctor as I did with the 7th Doctor, because obviously the 7th Doctor was the first one I actually watched as a fan. That was my era, so he was my Doctor in a way. By the time you get to the 8th Doctor, I wasn't overly enamored with the TV movie, and I wasn't overly enamored with the books. I have a few. I have some of them. Most of them I didn't really like. And I have some of the past Doctor books from BBC Books. Again, I'm not really into reading the like fiction Doctor Who anymore these days. I like the memorabilia ones. I like the non-fiction ones. I don't really read much in the way of fiction anymore. I don't know why. I just don't. I guess there's only so much time in a day and a week, and I have other things to do, like make videos like this. I never bought any of the modern books with the modern Doctors. I guess by that time I'd kind of gone off reading Doctor Who as fiction anyway, I guess. Plus I've never been that into New Who anyway, so there you go. I think that's about it for Doctor Who books. Now, obviously, I have a lot to talk about with others. I have other memorabilia, magazines, etc. We'll get to that later on. So what other fandom books do I have? Well, there's Buffy. I have quite a few books from the late 90s and the early 2000s. I never bought any of the fiction books, but I have some of the non-fiction ones. I have the two, I don't know if there are any more, I have two of the Watcher's Guide books, which are, they're kind of slight in a way. They're not really that rereadable. There's a lot of nice photos in them, full of full-colour photos. I also have, and I think I got this for Christmas present, 1999, the Buffy High School Yearbook, which is really thin. It's hardback, and it's got loads of lovely, lovely full-colour photographs in it, so it's great for that. But it is a very thin read, to put it mildly. But I still have it somewhere. I have, like, Keith Topping's Slayer book, TV guide thingamabob. It's okay as far as it goes. I don't necessarily always agree with his opinions on episodes, to put it mildly. That's about it for Buffy, I think. I have another Buffy book that was like, again, late 90s. I don't know who wrote it. I think it's called Bite Me, I think, and it's just, I don't know. I mean, it's a long time ago. I haven't looked at a lot of these in a long time. What else do I have in terms of books? Now, I have a couple of books for Neighbours. Now, Neighbours is a weird one for me because I'm really only a fan of a very small percentage of it. I mean, how long has that show been going now? Like 36 years? It's on like season 37, I think, now. And I maybe like 7.5 years of it. You know, I like it like 1985 through mid-91 and 2004, and that's basically it. And for most of it, even of that stuff, I'm not really interested in like buying memorabilia for it. I don't like it enough to want to buy memorabilia. Of course, there are aspects of it that I do love. We're talking like 1990 through mid-91 and late 2004. That would be like the only stuff that I would be interested in actually having memorabilia for. It's why I've not bought like the anniversary books. I don't know if there was an anniversary book for the 30th year. There was one for the 10th. It was crap. There was one for the 20th. I haven't bought it. I've kind of been asking around lately to see what was in it, to see if there was anything that would really fly up my flagpole, and the answer appears to be no. Because the problem is, much like the anniversary documentaries that they've had occasionally, basically they talk about the 80s because that was when the show was at its height, and then they mostly talk with the then current cast. So if the bits of the show that are most important to you weren't in the 80s or don't happen to be there at an anniversary, you're basically fucked. You may as well not even bother with it. That's why I've not bothered with the anniversary books. It's just a waste of time. What I do have in terms of books, I have again some other memorabilia, but in terms of books, what I have is the 1991 and the 1992 annual. I don't think they do annuals anymore. I don't know when they stopped. These are UK, and I bought them off eBay in like the mid-2000s. Now, I have to be honest, I kind of bought the 1991 one somewhat by accident. It was not by accident, but I got the dates mixed up. Because at that time, like back in the early 90s, the UK transmission of Neighbours was like literally a full year behind Australian episodes. So I bought the 1991 annual off eBay without really thinking, and then I got it and I kind of realized, oh shit, because this is actually for an audience that would have been watching late 1989 episodes. And like I said, while I like the 80s, I'm not particularly interested in memorabilia for it. What I really wanted was the 1992 annual, which I have got, and I still have. For reasons. What else have I got in terms of books? Oh, and one of my favourite films of all time is the 1998 Swedish film Show Me Love. And I do have the Lucas Moodysson's Show Me Love book, which is an American book, so it's in English, thankfully. It's not a novelization. It's actually a book about the film. It's about the production of the film. It's a critical analysis of the film, and it's about the success and the cultural impact of the film in Sweden, because it was a huge success in Sweden. It swept their like film awards. It won Best Film, Best Director, and a joint Best Actress for Rebecca Liljeburg and Alexandra Dahlstrom. But it wasn't just like a critical success. It was a huge freaking commercial success as well. It's like famously outgrossed Titanic at the box office in Sweden. All I can say to that is clearly the Swedes have great taste. But yeah, it's certainly a better film. I really like this book, actually. I'm actually really glad I got it. It's actually a really good read, because I mean, it's obviously kind of a labor of love. It's obviously written by somebody who really loves the movie. It's got some nice behind the scenes photos, mainly black and white, but that's okay. But yeah, I mean, it's a really nice piece of memorabilia. I mean, if you like the movie, if you love the movie, and you want something from it, some kind of piece of memorabilia, I can definitely recommend it. It's not a thin book. It's got some content, and it's really good too. So yeah. I also have the totally unauthorized guide to Seinfeld by David Wilde. That was published like 1998, I guess, when Seinfeld went off air. Again, it's a nice piece of memorabilia. It covers every episode. It's a bit of fluff, but yeah, it's a nice book. I've still got it. It's still in good condition. Another book I have is the Star Trek Deep Space Nine Companion. Now, I can definitely recommend this book. I picked this up, I think it was the early 2000s. I mean, it was after it went off air. I'm guessing 2002, but that's just me making stuff up at this point. This is a great book. I mean, it's absolutely massive. It is huge. It's a really weighty book with hundreds of pages, and it goes in depth. I mean, it goes into every single episode, gets like a lengthy synopsis and a lengthy kind of behind the scenes look at it. You get, the actors talking about the episodes. You get the writers talking about the episodes, and you get season overviews of each season as well. So if you're a fan of DS9, you need to get this book if you still can. It's really, really good. It's I don't know if there's been any more, but I can't imagine that any of it is good. It's a damn good book. I also have a couple of X-Files books. There's a couple of like fluff ones, kind of like the Buffy ones. There's two kind of the science of the X-Files books that I've got. I haven't looked at any of those in a really, really long time. The two ones that I do have that I think are actually really good and are still in great condition. The X-Files Book of the Unexplained, Volume 1 and Volume 2. The huge hardback books, and they're basically kind of examining paranormal phenomenon that have supposedly happened in real life in relation to similar cases that occur in X-Files episodes. They're written by Jane Goldman, who Jonathan Ross's wife. If you don't know who Jonathan Ross is, lucky you. And like I said, the big hardback books, they're good reads. I mean, whether you believe any of the stuff that's in it or not, who knows? But they're still decent reads, and they're good books, and they're good quality books. I got them for subsequent Christmases from one of my older brothers back in the 95, 96, something like that. Yeah, they're really good books. I still have them. They're still in great condition. Now, I think that's about it in terms of books. I don't think I have anything else. I don't think I'm leaving anything out. No, I haven't. Now, I have gone 20, 25 minutes already just on books. So I think I'm gonna split this up and talk about magazines and posters another time, miscellaneous another time. So that's it. That's the books that I have. Thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed listening to me ramble on about what a sad bastard I am. and I'll talk to you again soon. Bye for now.